The wasteland was silent, save for the crunch of snow beneath my boots. I'd been scavenging for weeks, trudging through the frost-bitten ruins of a world long gone, when I stumbled upon it. A factory, half buried in drifts of white. The metal walls groaned against the wind as I pushed my way inside. The place was gutted, stripped bare like everything else, but tucked in the corner, beneath a tarp, I found crates. When I pried one open, I didn't find weapons or food, just parts. Windmill blades, motors, cables, things I'd barely seen before. And diagrams, detailed and yellowed with age, explaining how it all worked. At first, I thought it was useless. Who needed windmills in a world like this? But that's when I saw the smoke. Not far from the factory, a settlement clung to life in the snow. The walls were patched with scrap metal, and the people inside weren't much better off. Thin faces, hollow eyes. I could tell their generators had gone silent. No power meant no heat. And no heat meant they wouldn't last the winter. I could have walked away. Should have, maybe. But something about them reminded me of who I used to be. Before the bombs. Before the solitude. So I stayed. I told them about the windmill parts, about how they could have power again. Some of them were hopeful, most were suspicious. They had no reason to trust me, and I didn't blame them. But an old engineer, a young mechanic, and a kid barely old enough to hold a wrench decided to take a chance. We spent days hauling the parts to their settlement, fighting against the snow and our own doubts. The diagrams weren't exactly foolproof, and none of us were experts. Still, we worked together, piecing things together one bolt at a time. The old engineer told me stories of the world before, about towering wind farm that stretched across the plains. The mechanic talked about their dreams of fixing up a pre-war car someday. And the kid just wanted to see the lights come on, to not be afraid of the dark anymore. For the first time in years, I felt connected, like I was part of something bigger than myself. But the wasteland doesn't let go that easy. The weather turned against us, freezing our hands and slowing our progress. Parts were missing, forcing us to improvise with what little we had. And then, just when we were close, one of the blades snapped under the weight of the storm. The group was ready to give up. The mechanic cursed the wind, and even the old engineer slumped in defeat. But the kid, God bless that kid, didn't give up. "I think I can fix it," they said. They disappeared into a pile of scrap, pulling out old generator parts, wires, and things I couldn't even name. They worked through the night, refusing to stop, until finally they had something. It wasn't pretty, but it was enough. On Christmas Eve, we finished. I'll never forget that moment. The first windmill blade turning, slow at first, then faster as it caught the icy breeze. The lights flickered once, twice, and then the entire settlement lit up. The snow reflected the glow like 1,000 tiny stars, and for the first time in years, there was laughter, real laughter. The kind that makes you forget, even for a moment, how broken the world is. The settlers offered me food, warmth, and gratitude. And then they asked me to stay. At first, I didn't know how to answer. I'd been on my own for so long, the idea of belonging somewhere felt strange. But as I looked around at the old engineer wiping tears from his eyes, the mechanic grinning ear to ear, and the kids staring up at the lights like they'd never seen anything so beautiful, I realized I didn't want to leave. So I stayed. The wasteland is harsh, unforgiving, doesn't give second chances. But sometimes, if you're lucky, it lets you make your own.